Should we welcome in the first Poopah?
We got to do it. Mr. Poopah himself. It's time for the crossover here every Wednesday. We do it with Don Taylor and Rick Dhaliwal, our pals. From Donnie and Dhali on Check TV. You can check them out on Check TV every day from 10 to noon, and they join us weekly. And you can't see it now, but this will be up on our YouTube channel later. We've got the special Grey Poupon overlay for Rick Dhaliwal. Poopah! We coined a new catchphrase last week, Rick. It's very exciting.
Well, Donnie and I had a very positive show today. No negativity. Nobody bringing us down. No Debbie Downers. No stupid analytical stuff to, none of that stuff. It was a very good positive show today, Donnie and I.
Well, I'm glad you've shown up being passively positive. Passively aggressively positive, Rick. Well, congratulations. That's what the PA and Poopah stands for.
They're second in the NHL. They're second in the NHL in points.
Let me ask you something, Rick. When a player goes on waivers, right? And two teams put on a claim, who gets that waivers? Who gets that player? Is it the team that's lower in the standings,
so
would you say?
Who usually goes on waivers, Thomas? The star players?
No. Just play along.
Usually fourth liner. So what's your point about the waivers? I don't get it.
He's going to bring up points percentage here.
Yeah.
Donnie gets it.
When a player goes on waivers, Rick, who gets the player if two teams put in a claim?
Yeah.
The team that's lower in the standings?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
so
if the Canucks Vegas...
Thomas,
if the Canucks Vegas and LA...
When you win a hockey game, Thomas, you get 2 points. That's all. When you win a hockey game, Thomas, you get 2 points.
And if you don't get an opportunity to win or lose that hockey game because you have played fewer games, then you can't be said to be behind in the standings if your point percentage is higher than the team that's played 6 more than you. That's just what it is.
All right.
I prefer precision.
Let's not get off the rails just yet here, guys. Okay, we got a bunch of minutes to fill still. But I will say, speaking of positivity, as you were saying, Rick, last week.
When did point percentage become positive or negative? By the way,
whatever.
It's just facts.
Last week, I said the Canucks were going to the playoffs, and you guys disputed me. You guys took issue with that. Since then, they've won 3 of 4 shootout loss in Minnesota.
No, they're the positive show, Jamie.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We weren't ripping into you, Jamie, for that.
Yes.
Well, all I said was that, and Rick agreed with me, is that that because we've been in Vancouver for so long, maybe people shouldn't talk like that.
Yeah.
It was a jinx thing. It wasn't about positive, negative. It was, hey, don't jump the gun here. They've fallen apart before. Plenty of examples of that. That's all it was. Right?
Fair.
Look, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a long time Vancouverite.
Yeah.
Myself and Rick.
And Donnie, just being cautious. We've seen teams fall apart in years past, but I mean, look, we're 33 games in. It's December 20th, and they're second in the NHL in points. And here's what I like about last night's game, guys. They defended well, and got goals from all 4 lines. No power play goals last night. All the goals were 5-on-5. That was impressive to me. And they played a complete game. Bad first periods in Chicago and Minnesota. Didn't have that last night.
Yeah.
They were leading 2-0. I absolutely loved Joshua defending Garland when he got knocked down in the corner. Okay, so we're starting to see a lot more of that, and that's how you build a team, is when you stick up for each other and everybody likes each other. And I absolutely loved Höglander fighting for the open ice in front of the net. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but that didn't stop him from getting to the open ice. And you're just seeing effort. You're seeing hard work. You're seeing good coaching. You're seeing a lot of stuff. And we just have not seen a lot of that in the last 8-9 years.
Well, I always bring up adversity. And, there was some in the second period when Nashville got its first goal. And how did they respond? Like right away. They respond, 15 seconds later, then a minute after that. And, they're back out in front, and they're back out in front by a score of 4-1. A little bit of adversity there, and they don't let it bother them. They just seem so much more mature than they have been in the recent past.
Yep. Rick, you bring up Dakota Joshua in the game he had last night. That line has been so effective and so consistent for the Canucks. And really, you look at Joshua, you go back to training camp, he was getting called out by the coach, healthy scratch early in the season. You look at the way he's responded and how effective he's playing, and he was brought here initially on a 2-year deal. Great find by this management team. Now he's a pending unrestricted free agent. Rick, do you have any sense of how much of a priority it is to get this guy re-signed? Because he's been a huge part of that third line doing what they're doing. And as you said, bringing that physicality, bringing that extra element to this team right now.
They got 9 UFAs, I'm counting, guys, on the current roster. And Jim Rutherford told us last week they're going to take their time on these UFAs. But when I look at the guys that I think they're going to re-sign, Joshua is definitely there. There is no question. Lafferty's there, DeSmith, Bluger, Cole, Myers, Zadorov. Zadorov, is not going to – out of all those guys on the UFA list, Jamie, I think Zadorov's going to be the toughest.
Number one? Toughest. Okay.
Toughest. And I think the agent there, Dan Milstein's looking for term. And I think he knows he's going to have a ton of teams after him on July 1st. So I think he could term. Hey, back to Joshua. Great signing when they did do it. Yep. And I think he's a guy on my list to re-sign. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Absolutely.
How tough do you think that one might be to do, Rick? You think about a guy like Joshua who was super productive in college, and he happens to turn pro at like the worst possible time with the St. Louis Blues organization just because of the pandemic, right? The Blues end up sharing the AHL affiliate with the Canucks in Utica. Might have given Ryan Johnson and company a bit of an inside track in knowing the player. And, spends a bunch of time on the taxi squad. We all know how miserable that was for everybody involved. And now he's sort of finally found and carved out this super valuable niche, not just as like a fourth-line energy guy, but as a major contributor on this Canucks team right now. I mean, given the profile, the speed, the size, the fact that he's on pace to score 10 goals 2 seasons in a row, the Marshall stuff, the fighting, the drawing penalties. I mean, how hot could you see the market being on this guy? And, you list all those players. How tough does it get as a result of the Canucks playing so well as a team?
Yeah, you make good points, Thomas. With Joshua, what's he at right now? 775?
Yeah,
825.
Something like
825.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're the agent, would you want to double it and try, or a little bit higher?
At least.
I don't know what Lafferty's going to want.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So they got some tough decisions to make. By the way, Ryan Johnson and Abbotsford played a big role in getting Joshua to Vancouver. I know people talk about pro scouts and this and that, but when you talk to the people about that signing, Ryan Johnson's name comes up a lot. He did the bulk of the work to get him to sign. He had a lot of interest on July 1st, Joshua did, and he picked Vancouver, and I see no reason why there will not be a contract extension. I think both sides want to get it done at some point, and I definitely see that getting done.
Yeah, and I just think his story that you guys referred to earlier is one that Rick Tocchet would love. Or loves, and that, first of all, there's size there. We know what he thinks of size on the blue line. I'm sure he feels the same way up front. He's an old school type of guy. But just the fact that, unlike others, and again, I'll use the word adversity, the story of him showing up not in the kind of shape Rick Tocchet wanted him to show up in, and he rectifies it. And he was publicly criticized. Some guys might shrink in that situation, and he's gotten better because of it. And, Andrei Kuzmenko, take note. And I think that Tocchet and Rutherford and Alvin are probably really impressed by that on top of what's going on the ice.
Well, I think one of the really impressive things about Rick Tocchet so far is you bring up Dakota Joshua. You're absolutely right the way he's responded, but think of the number of guys who've been challenged by the coach or by management. Niels Höglander going down to the AHL. Connor Garland looking like he might be on the outs. He's playing really well. Brock Besser, in the season he's had, right? And
they've benched JT Miller.
Benched JT Miller. It's a good point, and I do wonder if that's some of the frustration with Andrei Kuzmenko is. It's worked. Like so many of the other guys have bought in and have responded to the challenge, and they're not seeing that response with him like they have with all of these other guys.
Well, here's the thing about Tocchet. Every player-coach relationship comes down to one word: trust. I don't care if it's minor hockey, junior, or the pros. And the coach has got to offer clarity to the player. He's giving you clarity, Tocchet, every time. He's telling the media why Kuzmenko is not playing. And don't you think in film sessions he's telling Andrei that you got to forecheck better, you got to back check better, you got to. He's giving you clarity. When a coach doesn't give a doesn't give a player clarity, that relationship is over. But Tocchet he told us what Höglander's issue was. He told us what all these guys he's having issues with. There's clarity, and the onus is on the player when the coach gives you that clarity.
Yeah, and you know what? Tocchet can point to Höglander and Joshua and Kuzmenko and his agent. I know you don't want to hear this, Rick, but Milstein, you're publicly criticizing my player, and you're publicly criticizing me. Well, it's worked for other players.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna buy that argument. I mean, what's the batting percentage there? It's pretty darn good.
Yeah. The only thing, and I'll ask you guys too, the only question for me on Kuzmenko is how does he get out of the doghouse? If you're looking for his goal totals to go up, well, they're not going to go up on the fourth line playing 11 minutes with non-offensive players. And then the only other way out is better defensive effort from Kuzmenko. Back check, forecheck, improve the effort, compete levels. But the onus is on the player here, guys, because Tocchet is doing everything in his power to tell him what to do to get out of the doghouse.
What happens, though, Rick? I mean, a performance like that, every line scores, everyone looks good. You're right about the team's defense.
Tough.
I mean, how do you get back in?
Who do you take out last night?
That's the thing.
Honestly.
Nobody.
And
he scored.
Yeah, and especially you look at
played great on the PK.
Like the obvious spot for Kuzmenko has always been next to Pettersson, but Pius Suter goes up there and he's looked really good, right? Höglander's clicking
fine.
with Miller and Besser, and so you start to run out of spots where it makes sense. And does the scratch last night feel? Maybe this is reading too much into it, but does it feel like a little bit of a turning point in this story? Because I know at various times, Rick, you've said like, hey, this could go south, this could go in a bad direction. I know Elliot Friedman has said kind of, hey, as long as he's on power play 1, it shouldn't be a big deal. Well, if you're in the press box, you're not on power play 1. Like, is this trending in an exit or a divorce at some point here, Rick?
Well, the team has said last week they would like to rectify it and not end up in a divorce. The agent is calling the team every day because he's got 500 clients on the team. And so there's good communication between the two sides. Here's one for you, though. Trading Kuzmenko, you have a player making 5.5, fourth line, healthy scratch, only 6 goals. You think there's a long list of teams ready to take that on?
Probably not.
Sorry, I'm just trying to not dunk the football. I'm just trying to not spike the football. No, I think you're right, Rick. I think it's got to be a dollar in, dollar out one, unfortunately, and that's, as we know, hard to do. As easy as Alvin and Rutherford have made it look on occasion this season.
I don't know, though. I could see a team looking at it. Like, the good thing about the Kuzmenko, trying to trade Kuzmenko, is he only has the 1 year left on his deal. So you're not buying, and it's at a number you don't like when he's playing like he is this year in the role and he's in the press box. But I can see a team not giving you a haul for him, but talking themselves into, hey, this guy needs a change of scenery. We saw what he did last year, high skill player.
Easy skill level to talk yourself into.
Exactly.
When he's scoring goals and doing cool stuff. Gentlemen, as we sort of leave for the holidays, you think about this year in Vancouver sports, and you think about this year for the Canucks in particular, and we entered last calendar year, Bo Horvat was still on the team. Andrei Kuzmenko extension was in the works. The Boudreau thing blew up almost right out the gate. First 3 weeks of the year, and then it very quickly became a year of the year of Tocchet, the year of hockey being fun again, hope returning to this market after what was a really dismal start to the 2023 calendar year. Just when you reflect on the last 12 months around the Canucks, what's one storyline that particularly moved you? What's one thing we've seen that's particularly surprised you? I figured we might go around the circle and all offer one up this holiday season.
Oh, Christmas cheer.
This time, not that long ago, like we were all talking about, and I think Thomas, you and I were two of the members of the Vancouver media who felt, I want to rebuild.
Yeah.
Because I've been around since 1970, and they haven't tried it. So why not do something different? And I just think the fact that it looks like we were proven wrong, and how that's a good thing for Vancouver hockey fans. I'm happy for them. It's great. I said at the time, I wanted to be wrong. It looks like I'm wrong. I'm happy about that. So I'll go back to the, you and me and maybe a couple of other guys saying rebuild, rebuild, and it looks like we were incorrect, and that's okay. That's okay. We still could be right, but right now it's okay if we're wrong. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I don't like being
Thomas
wrong.
is never
but
wrong.
other
So
than that,
Thomas is never wrong. So how would he feel?
He wouldn't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't know. Hey, sorry. Go, Rick.
Okay, for me it was the Tocchet hiring. I just think it was the Tocchet. When I look at this turnaround, him telling all the players to get in shape. Here's your your summer booklet on what you got to do in the summer to get in shape. And they all came in. A couple of guys' tests weren't great, but he put his foot down. The expectations. He's got two great assistants in Foot and Gonchar. Then you got the Sedin twins he trusts, and then you all of a sudden, I think you tweeted the other day, Thomas, they had 8 coaches on the ice the other day at practice. I mean, this guy doesn't just come in and go, "Hey, it's my team." He takes if you look into Rick Tocchet, he reads books on guys who have been successful coaches. He's one of these other sports, and he's one of these guys that can't get enough information, always learning, always trying to get better. Just his hiring, and then the guy in Abbotsford, Jeremy Colton. You don't think they talk all the time, and he trusts the Sedin twins to come on the ice with these guys. I don't know. I just think Tocchet has changed the culture, the mindset of these players, and I think he's been the biggest story for me.
Well, I'll add to that, and maybe just the contrast between Boudreau's last game and what we see now.
Yep.
I mean, the knives were out for management and ownership in that last game, and then along comes Tocchet. And so I would say that contrast, visually speaking, would be the biggest story for me. That Boudreau, like emotional on the bench, weeping on the bench, and the criticism they took, and then what we see now, that's unheard of.
It's an amazing turnaround.
I think Tocchet, you're absolutely right, Rick.
Yeah.
Huge part of this story, and he would be on my list too. In terms of just pure feel-good stories, the one that comes to mind for me is Brock Besser. And think about his career arc in Vancouver, from being drafted as a rookie phenom, when the team was really stuck in a tough place and he was the bright spot, all the ups and downs since then, the adversity off the ice, the trade rumors, his camp is seeking a trade, criticized or challenged to change the way he prepares, and then for him to come in and, start off with that 4-goal game and just keep going and keep playing really, really well, fitting in on the power play, scoring goals like he is. It's hard not to just feel really, really good about that as someone who's followed his career and been here in Vancouver watching it develop.
There's so much there. Another one is, I think Quinn Hughes got better.
Yeah.
He named captain, and he got better. Like,
it's amazing.
How does that possibly happen?
Well, and that dovetails with the one that I'd pick, gentlemen, which is, when I was talking about the need to rebuild, in my view, for much of the first part of this calendar year anyway, a lot of it was predicated on a belief that, at this point we'd seen enough of the Canucks core players to have a sense that maybe, just maybe, despite the fact that, I bought that all of them were great players individually, their skill sets together wouldn't mesh in a way that led to winning, And I think this, over the course of the past 4 months, the way that Quinn Hughes has leveled up, the way he worked on his shot in the offseason, the way he's come in and just been one of the 5 best skaters in the league. Pettersson continuing to do Pettersson things. The way that JT Miller, like the energy around JT Miller has completely flipped this season versus last season. And then I come back to another moment, which was in Philadelphia, right? One of the worst performances that the Canucks have put in all season. And Rick Tocchet, of course, rips the team. Who are we to think we're anybody? And I remember being in the room that night, and there was just a comment from Thatcher Demko. And it was, look, we know that this isn't last season. We know. We're confident that this isn't going to go off the rails. And they lost the next night in Tampa and didn't look good defensively. And from that point on, it's been a snow day in Vancouver, and Demko was dead on right. He said it with that quiet confidence. Now, Demko's not the most expressive guy to begin with, but he said it with this quiet confidence, and as this season has gone along, I've thought back to that. It feels like this core group has had like a core of steel and attention to detail, the way that they've carried themselves and sort of carried this team as a result. Tocchet deserves some credit for it, obviously, but the way that core group has sort of leveled up and exceeded my expectations. That to me is what I'll remember in 2023 is like the year that maybe, because I want to note, I'm not quite ready to admit that we were wrong yet, Donnie, but maybe the year that core arrived.
Hey, there's a first time for everything. We'll see if it happens in 2024.
I admit I'm wrong all the time.
I know.
Just not about point percentage, Rick.
All right. Had to get that together.
I know.
Hey, guys.
Pay attention.
This is the last edition of 2023. It's been a blast doing this with you guys. Thank you. Even when it's an argument, it's a lot of fun. So thanks for doing this, and have an amazing holiday season. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll catch you guys in 2024.
Right back at
Thanks,
you,
Jamie.
both of you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. All the
All right.
best.
Cheers.
And
Merry
Thomas,
Christmas, Don.
Thomas, may Santa Claus bring you some positivity pills.
Or Santa Claus.
Oh no,
Santa Claus.
No, listen, Santa. For the 36th straight year, I want coal so that I can use it to cook hope and dreams this summer.
Santa's going to bring him a nice bottle of gray poupon for Drancer.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Hey, don't quit poupon on him, Thomas.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks for this. That is Rick
Adios.
Dhaliwal and Don Taylor of Donnie and Dhali.